Emilce.
Ahí va, estoy esperando que me responda, chicos.
¿Qué pasó? ¿Está?
Pero ahí mandó
Solicitud para... Ahí la admitimos.
alguien que la admita.
Ya.
Chicos, ahí entra.
Hi. Sorry, I thought
Hi.
the meeting
Hello.
was
Hello.
at 11:30 my time.
Ah,
And here is 2:11. But we can talk right now. I have 30 minutes, if that's okay.
okay, yes.
Sure. So tell me, what are, like, do you want to tell me what is the project? How, like, si quieren poder hablar en español, entiendo, pero no consigo responder todo en español. Si quieren, pueden preguntar en español y yo respondo en inglés, si quieren.
Buenísimo, bueno, dale. Ok, Emilce, ¿querés empezar?
Ahí empiezo. ¿Listo? Entiendo tu cosa, hola.
¿Podés presentarte en español, Emilce?
Sí, ahí no me estaría dejando ingresar con la cámara.
Bueno, no importa, si no, tranqui, con así nos vamos presentando y le vamos haciendo las preguntas, porque está medio justa con el
Sí.
tiempo, dijo.
Hola, buenos días, me presento, señorita Hall. I am pleased to formally introduce myself. My name is Emilce Fernandez, and it is a pleasure to greet you. I appreciate and advance the time you are dedicated to our interview. Thank you.
Si quieren hablar en español, está bien. Como, ¿qué es para una clase en la universidad? ¿Pueden explicar un poco?
Yes.
Sí, tenemos que hacer un trabajo de investigación y teníamos que hacer una entrevista justamente a usted. Así que nada, vamos a hacer un par de preguntas. Son poquitas, son como más concretas, pero bueno, para poder desarrollar este trabajo de investigación que nos mandaron a hacer de la universidad.
Sí, perfecto. ¿Y quieren saber un poco más como de mi trabajo, como de mi investigación en Brasil sobre agua y saneamiento, o más
Sí.
sobre todo, como...
Sí, le vamos a realizar preguntas principalmente sobre su artículo
Ah,
y
perfecto.
sí, y también, bueno, sobre su educación, su formación también.
Está bien. Como, sí,
Okay.
si no sé cómo responder en español, responderé en inglés, pero entiendo si me
Sí,
preguntan en español.
Okay.
perfecto.
Well, hello. I'm going to speak in English if you feel comfortable. We have some questions to do. The first one is, well, your article investigates the viability of expanding safe water and sewerage through private companies and investments under regulated low rates in Brazil. Can you tell us about your main findings, please?
Okay, so let me give some context of why I started researching that. So, like in Brazil, as many other countries in Latin America, we still have many people without access to piped water and sewer. But the government doesn't have, or they don't want to, doesn't have enough resources to like pay for all this expansion. So one way that they're trying to do that is by incentivizing private providers to go into this market. But there's a challenge, right? Because like private providers, they need to make profit to be in this market. And at the same time, we want them to expand to places that are further away from the network where they are. So it's expensive to reach those people. And those people are generally like low income people. So they don't have enough, like in many cases, they might not have enough money to pay for those services. So there's a tension there. Can you see? Like they want to make profits, and we want them to go to further away places where people don't have much money. So that's precisely what I try to address. Like which types of policies can we use to kind of like try to resolve this tension? So the first thing that I show in the paper, like I use data from a private provider in the country. So I have all the billing records, like all the water bills that people paid, how much they paid, and I know the concession area. So like all the area where they are the only provider that could bring piped water and sewer to this people. So then I estimate, like I use the data and a model that it's like, if you are econ majors, like similar to what you learn in economics of like how people make decisions, how firms make decisions, I model that with some equations, and I estimate the parameters of those equations from the data. So with this structural model, I can simulate what would happen in different scenarios that didn't happen. Because what we observe is like the firm in certain places before having to comply with this new policy in Brazil where they have to expand. So the first thing that I thought is like, if the firm expanded everywhere in the area where they have the concession from for, would people connect to the service? So in the model, I simulate the firm expanding to all those places, and I have like the demand that I estimated, and I compute what would be the demand in those places. And I see what I find, this is my first finding, even if the firm expanded everywhere, they would not comply with the connection targets from the regulation because people don't connect to the service even when the service is available. And that might be because people don't have enough money to pay for the bills, and because to connect their house to the street pipes, they need to pay for those construction costs. So this can be too expensive for many people. So the first thing that I learned is that it's not only a supply side, like forcing the firm to do things is not enough to solve the problem. So this is the first finding. And then I look at different policies to try to resolve this problem. So the first policy that I look at, what would happen if the government subsidized people to connect to the services once they are available? And then I showed that by doing that, we can get closer to those connection targets because then the firm will have more incentives to expand and people will have more incentives to connect. But the problem is that even with those subsidies, the firm wouldn't want to expand more because there are many places where the price that they can charge people is so low that they don't want to go in there because it's almost like offering a service that is very expensive to provide, but the price that they can charge for this is very low. So then I complement the policy with like allowing the firm to increase a little bit their, not a little bit, by a lot, by almost 50%, the sewage bills, because this would incentivize the firm to expand to different places. And we can compensate the effect on this on consumers with like a combination of the subsidy and price increase. So like
That's
my
how you
finding,
think. That's how you think you can manage this tension between profits and the general well-being.
exactly, it's like in one way, like we are helping people to connect, but then we charge them a little bit more on the bills of every month. So this seems to help a little bit this problem, but it's not perfect. It doesn't solve the problem, but it helps a little bit. But one thing that is important is under this policy that I'm saying, the government needs to put money. So there is like still a policy situation that it's not so easy to resolve because the government is trying to pass to have private providers precisely not to put more money. So
Okay. Mr. Hall, do you consider that the combination of private investments and public regulations, financial support, control, can be possible to to practice here in Argentina, in our country?
I'll be a little careful with that because like I don't know the context, to be very honest. Like what I like the conclusions that I come up with are like for the specific context of Brazil. But I think some things that we need to that are kind of problems everywhere is the fact that we need to help people to connect because this is expensive for them. So if there are people who are not connected, we might need to subsidize this. So I think this is a solution that I guess could apply to different places. And the providers need like the price that people are paying on their bills to cover the cost of the provision of the service. Because if those prices are too low, the company don't would not want to go to those poor places. So in some way, we need what we learn in microeconomics. I don't know if you always study economics. The price needs to be equal to marginal cost.
And do you think that maybe the World Bank or the Inter-American Development Bank can be invest in Argentina or our country here in Latin America? And do you think that's possible?
Yes, of course. And the IDB already does that. Like, I don't know much about the World Bank, but like here, they provide financing for governments, and part of it can be used to projects in like water and sanitation. Like they had a big project in Peru. They have projects on water and sanitation in the region. It's just because I don't work with operations, so I don't work with the loans. I do research, so I don't know exactly which projects they have in each country, but they do have projects in like at the end is like giving financing to the government such that they can use this money to kind of like build more like infrastructure or provide subsidies to people.
Well, thank you. Ms. Tojal, we would like to know if you had like a mentor, a professor, a teacher that you used to look up to when you were a student.
Yes. So okay, so I did undergrad in Brazil, and so when I was in college, there was a professor that had been the president of the antitrust agency, and I wanted to be like her. She, because like all the professors were like male and old and very boring, and like I couldn't see myself like in that profession like them. But there was this one professor who was super fit because she did triathlon, and I found super cool that she was the president of like this big agency in Brazil, and I wanted to be like her. So I guess she was a whole model because I could see myself on her. So I think it's helpful to have like other women that in some way like we can relate a bit more. But it's not that she said anything to me, just existing there was kind of an inspiration. So that was the first thing. So then I did kind of like a summer internship at this antitrust agency. And that's where I learned I wanted to work with this type of topics about like regulation and like antitrust and this kind of thing. But I understood that to go through this career, I had to do like a master and a PhD because I mean, she had a master and a PhD. So then I studied for the master. I did my master in Brazil. Then I understood that to kind of like grow in the profession would be great to have like a PhD abroad. So I applied to a PhD abroad. But I always wanted to study things in Brazil or like in Latin America because I feel that those things are like closer to my heart in some way. And so I started studying like those topics. And I came up with this research that is about regulation of water and sewer, which is very similar to what the IDB does. So I came to work here. So that was the path.
Okay. As you said before, in your article, you highlighted the importance of private investments with states' regulation and control. Do you consider your vision as liberal or interventionist?
Oh, that's a hard question. I don't know. I don't know. I do not place myself like, I don't know. I've never really thought about this. I think like by being an economist, I believe that we need to consider the incentives. So like even if we want to do interventions or not, we need to understand what are the incentives that each policy generates to the agents. Because I mean, there is a tension because like sometimes the people passing the policies are like politicians and like with lawyers involved, and they don't really understand the incentives that their decisions generate to farms consumers. So I think I'm a bit more technical on this, that I want to use what we learned, like the math and the equations, to be able to better describe the market, such that those people making the decisions are more informed. Like if we decide to do this, this can happen. If we decide to do this can happen. And I'm not taking much sides of like a normative of what should be done, and more like if you do this, this is what's gonna happen. So I think I'm a bit more technical. Sorry, I kind of deviated, but it's just, I don't know.
On your research, you also found out that the social results were very important. For example, it reduces the child mortality. So I think the maybe one of the most difficult things to balance is that the social aspect and the profits.
Yes, but I think it is difficult, but what I like about economics is that in some way we can put some dollar amounts and compare things. I know it's very hard to price a life, but at least gives us a way to compare policies. Because if we don't put numbers on things, we don't know what we are comparing. So like what I like from like doing this more structured work and like deep research that we do here is that we can put numbers and things and show, oh, if you choose this thing, we might have this amount of people dying. If you choose this thing, we might have this amount of people dying. So it's kind of like we can choose among the options by looking at the consequences in terms of numbers that we can compare. Otherwise, it becomes kind of a fight between what I believe and what other people believe, which is sometimes doesn't go far. I mean, yeah.
Well, Carolina, we want to thank you so much for your time and your dedication. And in behalf of all my partners, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And if you put together like a presentation or a text, can you share with me so I can see like what came out of this?
Yes,
Yes,
of
of
course.
course. No problem.
Yeah. Thank you. And if you have any other questions, if you like at some point like are thinking about like doing a PhD abroad or things like that, feel free to reach out. Like I know it's always nice to talk to other like women, kind of like similar situations. So I'm happy to talk if you need any
Okay,
advice.
Very much.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very nice to meet you.
Bye. And sorry for the confusion with the time. I thought it was later.
No,
Oh, no
no
problem.
problem.
Okay.
Problem.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye, thank you so much. Ya se fue.
¿No se fue?
Sí,
No lo entendí mucho. Como
Ay,
que tiene un inglés
chicos.
muy
Sí, igual se entendía bastante bien, ¿eh?
entendió, pero sí, hay como, yo tengo como que reverla la entrevista porque como que con los nervios y todo hay algunas cosas que se me perdieron.
Claro. Sí, bueno, pero estuvimos bastante bien.
Bastante bien.
Yo
Nada
me
que
quedé
ver
sin
el
hacer las
tema de la
preguntas.
estructuración de las preguntas.
Claro.
No,
Yo me
es
quedé sin
que
hacer las
tampoco,
preguntas.
es que quedó como, o sea, la estructura, por más de que nosotros la quisiéramos ordenar, cómo te
Sí.
va llevando la entrevista, quizás, o sea, había
Como que
cosas
ella
que, bueno,
arrancó
yo había
con todo, ¿viste?
respondido.
Arrancó con todo y como que dio mucha información en la primera respuesta y como que no daba a preguntarle lo mismo.
Claro. No, claro, había cosas que ya había respondido, entonces por eso yo la otra pregunta no la hice porque la hiciste vos. Pero bueno,
Sí,
sí,
sí.
sí. No, no.
No, pero bueno, bastante bien.
Ah,
Ay, por Dios. Me puse re nerviosa yo
yo
encima.
también. Yo encima tenía que hacer la primera pregunta y dije, me quedé así, porque dije, ¿con qué le hablo? ¿En español o en inglés al final? No sabía qué hacer.
Ay,
Igual en
no.
portugués.
Me pareció copada.
Sí,
Sí,
muy copada.
re. Y lo que
Sí,
dijo al
sí,
final también, de que cualquier cosa que necesitemos, de volver a hablar, lo que
sí,
sea, súper bien.
qué copada.
Sí,
Sí, la verdad que sí. Además no habla de manera muy formal, o sea, comunica lo que quiere
No,
decir, pero es
es súper
informal.
entendible.